Hey, welcome back. Before we get started with today's lecture, I just want to quickly touch base regarding last week's upload. And I just want to say I'm so grateful for the support and appreciation I received for just even trying from my family and friends. But, we don't really count that because they're family and friends and they don't have a choice. They have to support me. So that's kind of on them. So I appreciate it, but it's kind of your duty. So we don't really count that. But going back to like the video, I kind of rewatched it a few times and I was just nitpicking. I was like, this is bad, that's bad, yada yada yada. And this is not an excuse because this was all upon me, but one thing that stood out was the lack of preparation. I just kind of just went in there and I was like, hey, I'm just gonna go in and record and see what happens. And the end result wasn't what I wanted, but it's something to work from and you grow from it. That's how growth happens. You put yourself in an uncomfortable position and hopefully you evolve for the better. Sometimes you just keep fucking up and that's okay too. Because I still believe that trying is better than just wanting. So that's one thing. And a part of me really wanted to delete that video because I was like, this is embarrassing. What am I doing? And all that, but I just told myself, get over yourself, it's like, it's whatever, you fucked up, and you said a lot, you were all over the place, but get over yourself. In the grand scheme of things, it's a learning experience, like everything else in my life is. I'm always trying to push the boundaries, trying to push the limit, because why not? If I don't, I live with what I have, and even though it's good, I can foresee things being better. So I'm always willing to push the envelope further and further. And finally, the thing I want to get to about the last video, which has repercussions for this one, along with following, is the duration. Duration is very important to me because that's something I was striving for, was now seeming very far-fetched, because that first video was approximately 15 minutes or so. I gotta see how long this lasts, but my ideal vision for this is I could really get this lecture thing going for at least 30 minutes to 45 minutes. That way it could be more of a lecture type instead of just like, I don't know, like a vlog or something, because that's different. That's not really what I'm trying to aim for. I'm not really trying to delve into my personal life. This is more for a lecture purposes and not to really teach. I don't like, yes, when you want to be a philosophy professor, everyone asks what you're teaching, but I'm not really trying to teach. I'm just trying to like give ideas and thoughts out into the universe that people could just contemplate on, and they could think about it for themselves. So these are just my interpretation, but please, these are not the only interpretations. And at the end of the day, the most important interpretation is the one you create yourself, without any biases, without, I guess there's always going to be a bias, so let me kind of rephrase it, but I think from your experiences, your perspective, how you frame a narrative, I think that is the most important. And it's just the train of thought that you could systematically implement for hopefully providing a better future. But sometimes people's interpretation has led them down the wrong path. So that's a different story for a different day. But again, the purpose for these videos is not like for me to like teach, it's more to just give food for thoughts that an idea can take seed, grow, and one day be acted upon for betterment of humanity, let's go with that. um, so getting on to today's lecture, what I'm going to talk about today is the concept of I. And this is very interesting because it's near and dear to, I guess, everyone on the planet. I don't know anyone that's here that isn't playing for themselves, like even with, despite other obligations to people, like institutions, people are in it for them. And one of my mentors told me a great thing when I was younger. It's like, hey, don't think about anyone really being against you, because you're really not that special and they don't have that much time, so they're not really against you, they're just playing for themselves. So they're doing what they think is in their best interest at that given time, and as people adapt, evolve, that changes. So the concept of I is very interesting to me because it's so easy to say I am without really thinking, what is this I? Is it the body? Is it the consciousness? Is it the mind? So that's like a rabbit hole down itself. So for this lecture, for this purposes, we're just gonna keep it simple. I'm not really gonna talk about the body because that's very unique. It's whatever the flesh and bone structure is. It's like, for as fragile human beings are, the body is meant to adapt and survive. That's why it's like, I don't know if you've ever experienced seen a person with disability, but like, people have went through some shit, and the fact that it's still around, that's pretty cool. Like, it's cool. But again, the body's really cool, like, and that we could really get into that, but I'm most likely not going to. For the purposes of this lecture, let's just stick to consciousness, because the mind, it's very interesting. It's a bunch of chemicals and electrical thing that like kind of wakes us up or something, but I don't know. So we're gonna stick with the point of consciousness and how consciousness brings I, and the good and the bad associated with it. Actually, let me switch that around. I'm gonna go into the reverse. I'm gonna talk about the bad and then the good. Reason being, ever since I was a kid and I got asked the question, I got good news and bad news. What do you want to hear first? I always pick the bad news, because good news, if it's good, all right, let's wait. But let me hear the bad and let's course correct right away. Like, I don't have time, because bad things get worse, good things get better. So instead of, let's keep it at bad. I never want anything getting worse than it already is. So I always like hearing the bad before the good. And with that, it's also ideal, because when you end things off with a good note, it's a good feeling for you. It's a good feeling for the person telling you the news, and that way you're not shooting the messenger. You're getting the bad news, you're course correcting, and then you're celebrating with the messenger. It's like, sure, let's pop some bottles, But the concept of I is very, since we discussed that, like, I'll be talking about the consciousness that creates the I really want to get into, let's get into like some negative things that come up. And I think the number one issue that is so self-evident is that when you are totally consumed within yourself, your needs, your desires. I think everyone just becomes irrelevant. That might be a intense term because like there's still people you care about, but like majority of the time you don't really think about others. You're just like my goals, my goals, my goals. And as I'm saying this, guilty as charged, but and it's okay to an extent. You have to be like focused on your goals. You have to improve yourself, but after a while, just like everything else, the benefits plateau, and you could go into a very negative side of a self-serving attitude in which you disregard others, or you don't even think about, not even just disregard them. The thought process doesn't even come up of, oh, how am I gonna how is my actions going to affect someone I've never met? Because like that old Chinese proverb where a butterfly flaps their wings that causes a tornado. Everything is like interdependent on each other, and especially with globalization. I'm exposed to the financial services industry, and working with spreadsheets. It's just numbers on a computer screen that are the driving force of decisions in like boardrooms. And the scary part of that is these decisions that are based on numbers affect lives. They could really impact someone, and in a way that like we don't know. And idealistically, it's impact for the beneficial, like public goods, for example, creating a library so many people get educated. The school system, it's a social institution in which people could interact with peers their own age group, a little older, a little younger, and really find their way to flow in a social world. Parks, great concept. And if someone didn't think of it, it wouldn't be there. Another thing is like Amazon gets a lot of bad rep for profit seeking, but they ran at a loss for several years. And I know I'm blessed to live in a world like in a first world country in which my orders are delivered expediently, but that adds a lot of value to me. And I talk to a lot of my peers, and they love Amazon because it's like, hey, who doesn't like 2-day delivery, you know? But that's a different story for a different day. But it's important that when you're just thinking about yourself, you don't forget about others, because that's one of the biggest downfall the concept of I causes is you're just so self-seeking in everything that you could really do some harm, and it could really go downhill for many other people due to the ripple effect of your actions. So not thinking about someone else as an I is like the number one red flag that comes up with consciousness and I. And the second thing that could really be a bad lead to negativity with the I is it's the fact that it causes duality. And I'm gonna use a reference from a Sikhism scripture, and I wish I knew what Anga was on, but it's in the Guru Granth Sahib. I'm going to be referencing that for most of my, anytime I'm referencing Sikhism, I'm not going to be talking about, so there's short stories in Sikhism called sakis, and there's prayers called shabad. I will not be referencing those two. I will only be referencing the main scripture, which is called the Guru Granth Sahib. And I said it now, but I'm going to say it a few more times in initial videos, and then I'm gonna stop explaining what the Guru Granth Sahib is and just say it by its name. And I forgot what Ong it's on, but the pretty much the number one thing that it says about humanity and their suffering is the concept of I. The reason being is that we're all from the same form of being, in a sense, because even like if you look at physics, energy is never created nor lost, it is transferred. So the fact that we are here, it's just a transference of energy. It's time is a man-made concept. Time is a man-made concept, which is, as I say that, I really want to get into a discussion with time, but that's going to be for a different day, different time. See what I did there? But time is a man-made concept. What isn't is energy. And a lot of people say you got to be better at time management. You got to be better at time management. No. You got to be better at managing your energy. You got to do high intensity work when your energy levels are up. You want to do medium level energy when you're medium, and when you're low, you want to do you want to rest. Rest is very important. I think doing nothing is important, but going off of tangent, I want to go back. So the duality caused by I is the cause of a lot of suffering. Last video, I didn't have a drink of water and I was so thirsty, so I was like, you know what, it takes a second. I'm having my sips when I want it. When needed, not wanted, when needed. So interruptions are minimal. Any time you say I am, you're separating yourself from the whole. And you can't bend reality without it snapping back at you. If you think you can, go for it and see how it, how the world reacts. And if it is not the way the world wants it, you are not gonna go for it. You could go for it, but reality will catch up to you. That's why they say actions have consequences, because whatever you do affects other people. And once going back to the bad concept of the I, when you're making self-serving decisions that don't benefit anyone, it is evident. It is evident in your speech, it is evident in your actions, and it is evident in the results, in the outcomes of your actions. So when you're just self-serving without trying to be helpful to others, work for others, people can tell. People know when you're using them as a means to an end rather than just, cooperating with them. And cooperation is the reason humanity has survived as long as we have survived, because we don't have enough hair to even survive a winter. But that in the scriptures, that is why it said I am is a cause of majority of the suffering, majority of the anxiety, majority of the depression, because you're separating yourself from being. And once you do that, that's a cold and lonely road. If you stick together, but with that being said, let's talk about the good of the I, because as a personally optimistic person, I like seeing the good even in the worst situation. And it's I wasn't always like this, but I think around 2008 to 2010, somewhere around that time, I set up a challenge for myself in which I was like, no matter what situation you're going through, find one positive. No matter how minor it is, find one positive. And I just kept doing it again and again and again. And now it's just habitual that like no matter what happens, I'm just looking for one positive, and so I'm always looking for the good. So let's talk about the good in the eye. And I think it's exemplified in the Western community, the Western culture, in which individualism is the driving force behind all the innovation, all the incentives. I think the way the Western society is structured is for the individual to thrive, because if you're thriving, you're willing to contribute more to society. And talking about contribution, I just want to make a quick note. I never call charity or assisting others giving back, because I don't think you should take anything in the first place. So don't ever be in a position where you have to give something back. Rather, create and contribute to society. So anytime I talk about philanthropy, giving back, and charity work, I would like the perspective, if you guys could look at it in a way that you're not giving back, because if you're contributing, it's something you've earned and you've created yourself. And of course, there's always gonna be anomalies and the outliers of like the people that did the wrong and then they got the rewards. Then yes, it's giving back. But I speak to a lot of philanthropists and a lot of like, people doing charitable goods, and I don't see them giving back. I see them contributing and making the whole better than it was before. So, and I think and as we talked about the potential suffering that the eye causes, I would really love to get into the psychological benefits of the concept of eye. Because people thrive, well, some people thrive off achievement. And me being one of them, I think the biggest thing that I get happy about is I see something I want to do. I see that I'm incompetent. I work. I focus. I plan. I execute. I course correct, and then I repeat the cycle. And this allows me to be a little less incompetent, and eventually become competent enough to whatever I want to do. And just the progression is just so amazing, and it's like it's a hell of a feeling that I wish I could share. But there's that quote that says. I think it says about friendship, but I'm just gonna use self-satisfaction. It's like peeing in your pants. Everyone can see it, but only you feel the warmth. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty so like having this sense of like, oh, I wasn't able to do this yesterday, but like today I can do it. So that's a really good feeling, and I don't think people would even try if they didn't think they could, if they didn't have hope. And if you lose the individual concept of I, like if you make I meaningless, no one's gonna try. No, and if nobody tries, no innovation happens, no new records are set. And if no new records are set, there's nothing to be broken. So that the I could be bad, but it is also the force that pulls you to do things that are bigger than yourself, because you take 3 very intelligent, competent individuals, you put them together, their chances are they're going to do some really great things that will benefit many, many people. And if they didn't believe in the I, they didn't have hope, would they do it? Who knows, when Prometheus uh, uh, when Prometheus brought fires to the humans and went back to, I'm forgetting where the gods reside, but when he went back, he was locked up, and they're like, you gave them fire, and now they could develop technology, and that's pretty much the concept. We got fire, we developed technology, and yada yada yada. And at the same time, we were not able to foresee our deaths. So we always have a concept of, okay, we're gonna die, but we just don't know when. And it is just so defeating. So with that concept being known, and we see it every other, like, we, especially during COVID, I think it's been very blatantly in our faces. But then it comes down to, why try? Why even bother? Why try to achieve these things? Why try to contribute? And I think the response Prometheus gives kind of sums it up, and I think it's the great thing about why the concept of I is so strong and it should exist. And his Prometheus' reply was, I gave them blind hope. So I love that story, because it's like, it is just hope that makes one individual want to do more, be more. And with hope, I think this video is that's a good place to end it. So regarding the next video, the first video was actually recorded on my Mac, so I didn't really like the quality. I didn't like how the speech was, and okay, I got a pop-up. But anyways, this one I recorded on my phone, and I have a very I have a very makeshift gear right now, because I just got the idea this morning. So I just piled on a bunch of books and just put my phone on top. It felt like 2 times, and I was afraid it was gonna drop in the video, but yeah, so far it didn't. It could still drop, so you never know. But I'm very interested to see how it uploads on YouTube. If it's good, I like it. If not, we can always course correct. I could go back to the it's all about experimenting, trying to figure shit out. But yeah, I'm very happy with today's outcome, and hopefully next time will be better. With everything going on in the world, thank you for spending some time with me. Take care.